Alright guys, Doctor here, and today what I'm bringing you are some highlights from the recent AMA that the devs carried out on Reddit. I will put a link to the description for this AMA. What we have is confirmation of new weapons, equipment, vehicles, factions and more, so let's get started. So we got some extra features incoming to HLL Let Loose. Not sure when these are going to arrive, but the devs have said they are working on these. The first one is weapon resting, and this will be where you can rest your weapon on like a windowsill, a chest high wall, something like that. That's going to increase the stability of your weapon, reduce the recoil, and just make it a hell of a lot easier to shoot from a defensive position, like from behind cover. Second is ammo checking, and I think this is something the game really needs, especially for the automatics and the semi-automatic rifles. And yeah, what you're going to be able to do is see how many bullets you've got in that weapon, or how many bullets you've got in the currently loaded magazine. Simple, but I think it's a really good little addition to the game. And the devs have said that manual zeroing is coming to HLL Let Loose. This, for me, I've always said that I don't think zeroing should come to HLL Let Loose. Yes, it's a tactical or realistic shooter, but with the ping system in the game, I think it would make zeroing a bit too overpowered, because you can ping where you see your enemies. You're going to instantly know how far away they are, change the zero in on your sight, and be able to take them out a lot easier. If they're going to put zeroing into the game, they need to remove the distance marker from the ping system. But I would like the spotter to be able to see the distance of when they use their ping, just because they're a spotter. You know, it's like a unique thing that class or role should get. Just my 2 cents there. Next, we have an answer from the devs as to why all the maps are not always pointed to the north at the top of the map. And this is because, well, if you went to these locations in real life and you look towards the top of the map, it's not going to be north. It's just not how it is. You know, it's as simple as that. The devs have looked at potentially changing this in game just for the sake of gameplay, but they've said that how they've built the game, it will be extremely time consuming and very risky to make every single map have north at the top of it. What they've said is that should they make a sequel, then yes, they could look at having north as the top of the map in the maps for the sequel. It's a simple answer for this one, and you know, something you just got to get used to with the maps. You know, you've got your compass at the bottom of the screen. It's as simple as just using your compass for each of the maps. Now on to the question of the amount of automatic weapons that have been coming into loadouts with the recent updates. And the devs have said this is something they'll be tweaking in the future as they bring new gadgets, new weapons and new features to each of the roles. Some of the roles that currently have automatic weapons will find them replaced with either a new semi-automatic or a trench gun, which is a shotgun, or even a new type of explosive or other utility. But basically what they're going to do in future is remove the amount of automatic weapons currently with each of the loadouts, replace them with new weapon types, like I've said, a new semi-automatic or shotgun. But they've also said mortars, flamers, other types of bolt action rifles like the Springfield, sticky bombs, AT grenades, AT rifles, which for me means that the Soviet Union could be getting their AT rifles, and the Panzerfaust, and potentially even more. So what we've got confirmation there is definitely new weapons are coming to the game separate from the Soviet Union. Now an answer as to why HLL Let Loose is using Vivox. And Vivox is what handles all the voice communication in the game, and there's been a lot of issues with it recently. When the VoIP communications go down in game, it's pretty awful and it ruins the experience of the game. Having voice communication in HLL Let Loose just makes it so much better, and it is a much better experience when you can actually talk to your squad, chat locally, or speak to commanders. The reason why they're using Vivox instead of something themselves is that it enables them to offload all of the net load for the VoIP communications from the server that's running the game to Vivox's side. This lets the dedicated servers for HLL Let Loose run better and have a better netcode experience. Since the game released in early access in June 2019, I haven't seen a single complaint about lag or netcode issues or even desync. And Me being based in England, I'm constantly playing on East Coast American servers, and I've never had an issue at all. The netcode for Hell Let Loose is just great, you know, absolutely no complaints there. And I guess part of this is because of Vivox. However, Vivox have said Hell Let Loose is their biggest, most intensive application on their side that they currently have. This is due to the complexity of the usage that they don't see in their other clients. Vivox have said that the player count of the game, the number of active channels, which is local, squad and command, ×2 for both sides, the speed at which people connect and disconnect from the games, and the total game length are just huge factors in this complexity of the solution that they've implemented. But Vivox and Black Matter, the developers of Hell Let Loose, are working to try and improve this for the future, and I really hope they do, because we need a good, constant, consistent quality of voice communication. We have confirmation of the half tracks coming to the game, and these are going to be rolling garrisons or spawn points, with players either being able to spawn in the back or around them, which they haven't really decided yet. They're effectively going to be used as mechanized infantry units, which will be able to create wide flanks through the enemy lines, and the devs suspect that these half tracks could replace the current red zone garrisons, but they've got to do more testing first. And next we have what I think really is confirmation of where Hell Let Loose is going to go after the Eastern Front, and it's the Pacific Theatre. The devs have said that the Pacific Theatre is a natural place to go once the Eastern Front is in the game, and their general plan is to continue to develop content and maps for every front going forward. For me, I'm a little bit disappointed because, well, it's just because I'm British and I want the North African campaign in the game, because that'll bring the British into the game. It's simply that. But I do understand why they'd want the Pacific Theatre in. One of the reasons I think they'll be doing the Pacific Theatre first is markability. I think there's a lot more Americans that play the game than British, so in terms of the player base for Hell Let Loose, a larger portion of them are probably going to be more interested in playing the Pacific instead of North Africa. So I kind of understand it from that point. It is a game, it is a company, they do have to sell a product to get money in, so I kind of understand it from that perspective. I just really hope that it doesn't take them long to put the North African campaign in. And then I asked the devs a question about giving us proper DirectX 12 implementation along with DLSS. And the devs have said that yes, they do have plans to implement this, but at the moment there are some issues around reliability. And what they need to do is actually update the current Unreal Engine 4 version that the game uses. The biggest issue with doing this is that when they do an engine update, it requires about 1 to 2 months of testing and bug fixes across the entire game. Well, I'm going to say if and when DX12 and DLSS comes, I reckon it's going to be a post-release thing. But I hope it's pretty soon, because RTX card users being able to use DLSS, that's going to be a huge performance increase for them. Now some updates to the engineer role. And yes, they have more plans to introduce new utilities for the engineer role, like barbed wire cutters, minesweepers and diffusing kits. And another question was answered as to why they stopped people being able to destroy mines by shooting at them, and this was to stop a suicide engineer loop. This is something I actually did in game. You run down, put a mine behind or in front of a tank, shoot it, kill yourself and blow up the tank. So that's the why they stopped this in the game. They don't want that in the game. So giving the engineer a diffusing kit is just going to be the perfect way to remove enemy mines. And hopefully this will work on anti-personnel mines as well. Now the question around why they're putting in big updates instead of a lot of small patches. And what they've said is, yes, small patches are easier for them to achieve and it's a lot less risky to put small patches into the game. While the game is slowly improving over time, there's nothing like big for them to shout about, So with these big updates, they can put that into the game, make a new trailer, have like a big event for it and be like, yes, we've got, these new maps, these new weapons, this new faction, and then like a long list of bug fixes. I'm pretty sure in the last update there was a huge amount of bug fixes, and doing these big updates with the marketing behind it, it's going to draw old players back into the game, and it's going to bring new players into the game. If you look at the Steam charts for Hell Let Loose, you can see that the player numbers, they spike up and then they start to go down, but when they get to their lowest point after the spike, higher than the lowest point before the spike, if that's making sense. So it's bringing in new players and keeping them in the game, which, of course is great because it means the player base is growing, more people are buying the game and staying playing it, and that's what we want. We want more people playing Hell Let Loose because we want to make this game huge and successful. Commanders are going to get an update per faction. So for each faction, commanders will be getting specific abilities for that faction. No news on what they are yet, but what I would like to suggest for the Soviet Unions is this.
Gear of reporting.
Back onto the news of new weapons and equipment. The developers will be bringing in fixed weapon emplacements into Hell Let Loose, and they're going to be bringing in heavy machine guns, mortars, flak cannons and more. What we're also looking at is having these as buildable things which can be upgraded to more powerful versions. And then the last bit of news I've got for you is our rifle grenades. Yes, rifle grenades are coming to Hell Let Loose, but the devs, I'm not sure which role yet, should get them. I think the rifleman should get it. I think the rifleman doesn't get a lot of love, but if they do get it, whichever loadout gets the rifle grenades should not get an explosives ammo box. That would make it a bit too overpowered. Let them stick with a standard ammo box and that'll be fine. And that's it for this update from the devs in Hell Let Loose. I hope you enjoyed this update. If you do, please give it a like, subscribe for more and become a member for the channel. And thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.